before the first star breathed light into the womb of darkness, before atoms danced their ancient ballet, and long before the illusion of time etched itself into human psyche like lines on an age map, something profound stirred in the stillness. A whisper not heard but known, a shimmer not seen but felt, and in that primordial silence, where form had not yet shackled spirit, a conversation occurred, not with words, for words had not yet been born, but with the deep resonance of intention, of purpose. It was then, in that place beyond chronology, that you agreed. This life, its triumphs, heartbreaks, ecstasies, and shadows, was not thrust upon you like an unwanted cloak. It was chosen, meticulously, boldly, lovingly. You nodded to the path before you, even as it coiled through valleys of forgetting. The idea of the soul contract is not some esoteric wallpaper pasted onto New Age thinking, but rather a window, cracked just enough, allowing the light of a deeper knowing to shine through. It suggests that the life you're living is not random, not cruel, not meaningless, but encoded with invisible purpose, like sacred geometry sketched in the margins of your existence. To say you agreed to this life before time was even real is to peel back the veil on a forgotten covenant, one made between your eternal self and the sacred architecture of the universe. A pact not of punishment, but of experience, not of servitude, but of evolution. In agreeing, you did not sign a linear contract in ink, but resonated with frequency, a particular spectrum of being, infused with learning, expansion, and soulful remembrance. And so, you incarnated. But birth is a kind of amnesia, a plunge from the formless into formed. The soul, once boundless and luminous, compresses itself into a vessel, a body, a paradox of divinity and limitation. You arrive, cry not from pain, but from the shock of forgetting. The agreement remains etched into the deeper layers of your consciousness, like starlight embedded in a fossil, waiting to be unearthed in dreams, synchronicities, heartbreaks, and revelations. This life is your chosen syllabus. Each person you meet, every challenge you endure, and every love that ignites or withers is woven into your curriculum with intention. Nothing is by accident, not even the accidents. It is not a deterministic trap, but an intelligent framework, a scaffold of possibility that still honors your free will. You are both the artist and the brush, the dreamer and the dream. Yet, for most, this truth remains dormant, not because it is hidden maliciously, but because awakening it too soon would collapse the very point of the journey. Imagine telling an actor their script halfway through play. It would flatten the performance. The forgetting is the alchemy. The rediscovery is the gold. Still, signs leak through, in quiet moments of deja vu, in dreams that feel more real than waking life, in the pull towards certain people or places without explanation. Your soul is whispering. Remember, it says, not in desperation, but in love. You chose this. You are not lost. You are on time. All of this is sacred. To understand the soul contract is not to escape life, but to re-enter it with new eyes. To see the patterns not as cruel repetition, but as invitations. To approach pain not only with resilience, but with curiosity. What if your deepest wound was not a mark of betrayal, but a chosen portal? What if that heartbreak was not an error, but a crack in the armor, perfectly placed so light could finally enter? We often long for purpose like wanderers thirsty in the desert, unaware that the well has always been buried within. The soul contract is not just a concept. It is the architecture of that well, a blueprint written in the ink of stars and sealed with the signature of your eternal self. And just as ancient trees hide their rings beneath bark, your soul hides its origins beneath flesh. This exploration is not merely spiritual poetry. It is practical magic. Because once you begin to grasp that you are not a victim of life, but a participant in its sacred unfolding, the way you live shifts. Responsibility is no longer a burden, but a liberation. Suffering becomes less about blame and more about meaning. Even chaos begins to sing in harmony. In the pages ahead, we will dive deeper into the scaffolding of this invisible agreement. We will explore the cosmic metaphors and mythic truths, the symbols that hold more than they reveal. But before we do, rest for a moment in this remembrance. You are not here by accident. You are not living a life you did not choose. You, brave soul, agreed to this. Not out of naivety, not out of punishment, but out of an eternal knowing. Because even before time was born, you knew this life would awaken something eternal in you. Imagine, for a moment, that existence is not linear but layered, a spiraling helix of experience where time is not a ruler but a canvas. If we look closely, we begin to see that the concept of the soul contract is not merely a single choice frozen in some mythic past, but a pattern written into the living breath of reality itself, a humming frequency woven into your every interaction, your every decision, your very heartbeat. At its core, this idea suggests that long before your name was spoken into the world, long before your personality wrapped itself around you like a familiar cloak, your essence, your soul, stood before the boundless field of potential and selected a path, not necessarily for the comfort it would offer, but for the precise pressure it would apply to your inner being, like the artisan who knows that the perfect cut yields the most brilliant crystal. You chose certain experiences not to punish yourself, but to carve yourself open to the memory of who you already are. The first guiding theme in this cosmic tapestry is that of remembrance, not learning, as we often believe, but remembering. You are not a blank slate being filled. You are an eternal flame temporarily veiled. Each challenge, each twist of fate, is not just a lesson. It is a breadcrumb, a symbol pulling you back to the awareness that you are more than this body, more than this name. That quiet ache you sometimes feel in moments of stillness, the sense that something deeper is waiting just beyond the veil, is your soul knocking on the walls of your waking consciousness, asking to be acknowledged. Another foundational principle is that of karmic entanglement, not as punishment from a cosmic judge, but as threads of unfinished resonance, like music caught mid-chord, some notes from previous lives or dimensions long to be completed in this one. So you meet people who ignite unexplained emotions, some who comfort you with uncanny familiarity, and others who bruise you with mirrored wounds. These are not strangers. They are soul echoes, partners in your divine dance. You chose them, and they chose you. Even the betrayals, even the losses, even the silences that split you open. This brings us to the third pillar. Agreement does not mean control. The soul contract is not a rigid script. It is a melodic outline. You are not imprisoned by fate, but partnered with it. Free will is the improvisation within the symphony you pre-chose. The soul's agreement does not negate spontaneity. It honors it, like a river that knows the direction of its flow, yet dances in every twist. You're allowed to explore, resist, surrender, rebel, and return. And so, destiny and choice exist not as opposites, but as twin flames. Destiny lays the stones. Choice is how you walk upon them. There's also the great theme of illusion versus essence. The human experience is defined by veils, veils of identity, of time, of separation. The soul contract invites us to pierce these veils, one by one, to recognize that the enemies we perceive may be the catalyst we requested, that the limits we bump against are sacred constraints designed to press us deeper into ourselves, that even suffering has a secret geometry, forming constellations we can only see in hindsight. Underneath this illusion is the soul's deeper aim, evolution through contrast. How can light know itself without shadow? How can peace be understood without the presence of chaos? The contract is your soul's way of orchestrating these contrasts, of intentionally placing you in contexts that sharpen your awareness, refine your empathy, ignite your insight. You did not come here to float above the world. You came to dive fully into it, to taste its bitterness and its sweetness, and in doing so, to alchemize both. Embedded in this is the sacred mystery of the wound as the portal. In almost every soul's journey, there is a core wound, an origin story of pain, a moment when innocence was cracked open, when trust was shattered or belonging was denied. And while the world may see this as a scar, the soul sees it as an opening, a sacred fissure through which the light of truth might enter. The contract does not aim to wound for the sake of cruelty, but to place you in direct contact with the parts of yourself most capable of transformation. It is here that the soul speaks in a voice quieter than thought. It speaks in pattern, in symbol, in synchronicity. It arranges for you to see the same number, to hear a song that mirrors your inner world, to meet someone at the exact moment you are ready for the conversation. These are not coincidences. They are signatures of the deeper agreement still unfolding beneath the surface of your day-to-day life. And perhaps the most humbling theme of all is this: you are not alone in this agreement. There are others, countless others, walking paths of parallel purpose. Some you will meet, some you already have, some you will never see, but they are there, woven into the same quantum web of awakening. We are not solitary travelers, but a constellation of souls flickering toward remembrance, each playing a role in each other's unfolding. What looks like chaos from the ground may be harmony when viewed from the stars. In the grand architecture of being, the soul contract is not just a choice, it is a sacred orchestration, a prelude to awakening. And like all great orchestras, its meaning is only felt when we stop to truly listen, not just with our ears, but with our entire being. To live with this awareness is to reclaim your role as both actor and author. It is to become the living expression of an ancient vow whispered before the first sunrise, a vow you are still fulfilling, moment by moment, breath by breath. Long before the first spark of consciousness gave birth to thought, the soul danced in realms where language had no dominion, where knowledge was not acquired but embodied. In that realm, meaning was woven not through facts but through story, symbol, and sensation. And it is there that the soul contract was first conceived, not as a document but as a dream so vivid, so sacred, it became a world, this world. To understand the soul contract more intimately, we must journey beyond explanation and into the realm of myth, where truth wears a clothes of metaphor, and time does not pass but deepens. For beneath the intellect's need to grasp lies the soul's need to remember, and it remembers best through stories, those timeless mirrors that reveal more than they reflect. Imagine a vast hall of mirrors, suspended in a space that feels neither inside nor outside, bordered by nothing, framed by everything. This is a chamber of choosing, a mythic place whispered about in the language of dreams. Here, before birth, each soul stands before the reflections of possible lives. Each mirror showing not only what could be, but what must be should certain lessons wish to be known from within. One mirror shows a life of ease, where love flows like an untouched river and loss never grazes the skin. Another shows struggle, abandonment, hunger for meaning. Another glows with artistic fire, but is lined with solitude. Another vibrates with power, but shadows stretch long behind its glow. The soul, in this chamber, does not judge these lives as good or bad. It feels them. It listens to the one that sings a note in resonance with its deepest longing, not for comfort, but for growth. In this myth, each soul is accompanied by luminous beings, guides, counselors, echoes of an eternal self, who lay their hands upon the shoulders of the soul and whisper, "Choose wisely, but do not fear. Every path leads home." The soul gazes, breathes in, and with a kind of sacred gravity, steps forward into one of the mirrors. That step is the agreement. The mirror shatters, and in the shattering, the soul falls into form. The contract is sealed not with ink, but with intention, and that intention becomes you. Another myth speaks of the weaver of threads. This being, neither God nor entity, but a living force of consciousness, sits before an infinite loom. Upon it, threads of soul light are spun into the garments of lives. The weaver does not control, but guides. When a soul agrees to a life, the weaver takes that intent and begins to interlace it with others, souls whose paths will intersect, clash, bond, or transform each other. Some threads will touch only once, like a stranger's brief kindness in a grocery store that somehow reroutes your day. Others will wrap around you tightly, like family, lovers, teachers, or adversaries, binding you in knots that must be untied through experience. The tapestry is breathtaking and complex, but to the human eye, it appears as chaos. Only from the vantage of the weaver is its harmony known. Then there's the allegory of the amnesiac god, told across many cultures and veiled in various costumes. In this story, the divine wished to understand itself, and so it fragmented, becoming many. Each fragment took form, entered lifetimes, and forgot that it was God. These fragments, souls, wandered the worlds, tasting sorrow and ecstasy, building empires, making art, breaking hearts, and searching, always searching, for something just out of reach. The amnesia is not a flaw but a design. Only by forgetting could remember and become real. The soul contract, then, is the initial agreement to forget not permanently, but long enough to learn what can only be learned through the illusion of separateness. Long enough to allow the beauty of the return to truly matter. In another image, the soul is likened to a seed, and the garden of sensation and challenge. To agree to this life is to be planted, buried, even beneath the soil of density and limitation. The seed does not fear the darkness. It knows that from the pressure, the cracking open, the reaching toward the sun, something eternal will bloom. From the soul's perspective, pain is not failure. It is photosynthesis. The agreement, then, is not only to descend but to rise, again and again, knowing that every fall contains a blueprint of its own ascent. And so, through these stories, the contract reveals itself not as a burden, but as a mythic adventure, an odyssey into forgetting and remembering, loss and reunion. The characters in your life are not just people. They are archetypes cloaked in flesh. Soul actors playing roles you both agreed to long ago. The parent who wounded you may have signed up to teach you sovereignty. The partner who abandoned you may have pointed the way back to your own heart. The illness, the betrayal, the unexpected detour. They are not punishments, but plot devices in your soul's epic tale. These stories do not ask to be believed literally. They ask to be felt, to be absorbed like a melody that stirs something ancient inside you. The point is not to reduce your life to a fairy tale, but to elevate it. To remember that even the mundane holds myth within it, that your tears are holy, that your longing is a compass, that your joy is not frivolous, but a signpost back to yourself. And here in this mythic frame, we begin to see that the soul contract is less about fate and more about poetry, a kind of divine verse echoing across the corridors of time and space. You are not reading it, you are living it. Each day, each breath is a line in that poem. Even now, as you read these words, something in you stirs, not because you're being taught something new, but because something ancient within you is waking up. And in that awakening, you begin to understand that your life, its shape, its patterns, its unfolding, has always been a living myth authored by your own immortal hand, the sacred waking life. It's one thing to speak of stars and soul threads, of forgotten chambers and sacred contracts whispered before birth. It is another thing entirely to bring that awareness into the ordinary pulse of life. After the metaphor dissolves and the myth rests quietly in the back of your mind, the real alchemy begins. The moment you look around at your life and ask, how do I live this now? The soul contract is not a theory meant to stay folded in the pages of cosmic philosophy. It is a lens meant to be worn as you move through traffic, sit in silence, fall in love, pay bills, grieve loss, and sip your morning coffee. It is not a way to escape life, but a way to enter more fully, with reverence and agency. Consider, for a moment, the person who seems to trigger you endlessly. Someone whose presence creates friction in your being, whether a boss, a partner, a stranger, or a parent. Under the old lens, this is just annoyance, conflict, a sign of incompatibility, or frustration. But under the soul contract lens, a possibility arises. What if this person is fulfilling a role you both agreed upon? What if their friction is part of your transformation? That doesn't mean staying in toxicity. It means listening differently. It means asking, what part of me is being invited to grow, to release, to confront, or to heal? When you remember that you chose this life with intention, you begin to move out of victimhood and into sacred authorship. This shift doesn't eliminate pain, but it reframes it. The breakup becomes not a sign of failure, but a soul checkpoint. The betrayal is no longer meaningless, but part of an arc that asks you to reclaim trust in yourself. Even illness can become a sacred messenger, a radical realignment of your internal and external world. The contract does not promise ease. It promises evolution. Free will is still the instrument you play. You can opt out, numb out, run away, delay. But even that, in a strange way, is part of the path. The contract doesn't demand compliance. It invites participation. The lessons may repeat until felt, until embodied, not out of punishment, but because your soul wants you to bloom in a certain light. So, how does one practically embody this remembrance? It begins with presence. Instead of moving through life as if things happen to you, begin to ask, why might this be happening for me? This simple shift is the first ripple. When a delay frustrates you, pause. When a relationship stretches you, breathe. When synchronicity appears, honor it. The world is alive with echoes of your soul's agreement, but they require a quiet inner stance to be heard. Another practice is discernment between reaction and response. Reaction comes from the mind, from the bruises of your story. Response arises from the soul, from the deeper awareness that this moment is sacred, even if painful. When you remember your contract, your nervous system begins to stabilize in a strange kind of trust. Not blind optimism, but a faith born from the knowing that your life has been shaped with care, even if you don't yet understand the full design. Integration also means recognizing the repeating themes in your life. What keeps showing up? Abandonment? Powerlessness? The need for approval? These themes are not failures. They are signposts pointing to the core lessons you came here to master. The contract will present opportunities again and again for you to approach these themes differently, to make new choices, to step into a new frequency of being. Relationships become sacred contracts within the larger contract. Every lover, friend, child, and enemy may be holding a key for your remembrance. Some are long-term guides. Others are brief but catalytic. Some come to walk with you, others to wound you, because your soul asks to learn forgiveness or boundaries or the courage to walk away. None of this excuses harm, but it reframes the purpose of what that harm can awaken within you. Then there's the matter of purpose. So many wander this world aching for meaning, grasping for career labels, titles, missions. But from the soul contract perspective, purpose is not a role, it is a vibration. Your purpose is to be who you truly are, to remember your essence, and to bring that essence into form. This can happen whether you are making art, raising children, working in a cubicle, or planting tomatoes. The outer expression is secondary. The inner alignment is what unlocks the real magic. In a world dominated by metrics, speed, and surface-level definitions of success, this idea is radical. But to live as if your life is a soul agreement is to return power to the present moment. It is to recognize that your very being is the offering. The challenge is not to become someone new. It is to reveal who you were before forgetting. Practically, this also means engaging in rituals of remembrance. Meditation, breath work, prayer, journaling, walks in silence. These are not spiritual luxuries, but tools of recalibration. They help you tune into the frequency of your soul's voice, which is subtle, nonlinear, and wise beyond intellect. The soul does not shout, it hums. And in the stillness of your daily life, that hum becomes a guide. Even your goals begin to change. Instead of asking, what do I want to get? You start asking, what is my soul seeking to express? This doesn't make ambition wrong. It makes it sacred. You're no longer climbing ladders to prove worth. You're walking paths that reveal who you really are. And in all this, there is grace. You will forget. You will react. You will feel lost. But the beauty of the soul contract is that even your forgetfulness is part of the plan. The moment you remember again, even briefly, is another turning of the spiral. You are not failing. You are unfurling. In the end, practical integration of this truth is less about doing and more about being differently within the doing. It is not about fixing your life, but seeing your life through the lens of sacred design. With that vision, even the chaos becomes holy. Even the mess becomes meaningful. And slowly, moment by moment, you begin to live not just as a person in a world, but as a soul in a body, fulfilling an ancient agreement, with every breath becoming a whisper of home. And now we arrive at the precipice, the liminal edge where reflection turns into realization, where all the cosmic echoes, symbolic threads, and daily awakenings draw toward a singular, powerful truth. You are not here by accident. You are not a random collection of cells navigating chaos. You are a divine traveler, a timeless witness wrapped in skin and story, fulfilling a vow made before language touched the tongue of time. You agreed to this life, not blindly, not as punishment, not an error, but as a courageous act of cosmic trust. This life, with its contradictions and its quiet miracles, its jagged grief and shimmering grace, is a stage upon which your soul's deepest longings are playing themselves out. The loneliness, the beauty, the moments you thought would break you, the faces that stay with you in dreams. None of it is arbitrary. All of it belongs. All of it is part of the larger architecture, The invisible scaffolding that you yourself helped design before you fell into forgetting. And what now? Now you remember, not just in your mind, but in your marrow, not as an abstract idea, but as a felt sense that moves through you when the world falls silent and your breath meets the stars. Remembering is not a single event. It is a slow unfolding, a return through layers of self, to the fog of distraction and pain and performance. It is a sacred peeling away until you reach the core, the you that existed before the name, before the role, before the conditioning, the you that said yes to this life. This remembering is not meant to make you retreat from the world, but to root you more deeply in it. Your soul did not come here to escape Earth. It came to inhabit it fully, to feel everything, to love from a place that knows loss, to create from a place that knows limits, to be human and divine all at once, wrapped in paradox and thriving anyway. You begin to see life not as a burden to endure, but a conversation to engage with. Every event, every relationship, every moment of silence or sorrow becomes an invitation to ask, what am I here to learn? To embody? To transmute? This does not make pain disappear. It does something more profound. It gives pain purpose. And from purpose, power rises. Not the power of domination, but the power of clarity, of alignment, of grounded presence. You may find yourself, in the quiet hours, drawn to stillness more often. You may begin to notice how the wind touches your skin, how light moves across your room, how the laughter of a child vibrates in your chest like a song half remembered from before birth. These are not distractions. These are clues. Clues that you are waking up to your contract, not as something heavy to carry, but as something holy to live. And you will still forget. That is part of the beauty. For every forgetting holds within it the seed of the next great remembering. The spiral turns. The path folds on itself. You think you are lost, and then you find, in the middle of your confusion, a truth so intimate and ancient that it cracks you open. You are not broken. You are breaking through. The transformational call is not to change yourself. It is to become yourself fully, wildly, unapologetically, reverently. It is to sit in front of your life and say, yes, I chose this. Even if you don't understand why yet, especially when you don't understand why. That yes is the most sacred word you can speak. It is the word that rewrites timelines. It is the word that returns you to your soul's seat at the center of your being. It is the word that ends wars within and begins a quiet revolution without. And so, if you are reading this now, feeling the stir of something unnameable waking up in you, then this too is part of the contract. You were meant to find these words. Or rather, they were meant to find you. They are not answers. They are keys. Keys that open doors you already placed inside yourself. The question is not, what should I do now? The question is, what is already waiting within me to be lived more truly? Take the risk. Speak the truth. Forgive the unforgiven. Rest when you need to. Begin again when you fall. The soul does not keep score. It keeps rhythm. And all it wants is for you to dance the pattern you agreed to in the only way you can. You are not too late. You are not too far gone. You are not unworthy of the promise you once made in the silence before time. You are right on time. You are exactly where your soul needs to be for the next unfolding. You are the contract revealed. You are the signature and the story. You are the dreamer and the dream. Now go. Live what you came here to live. And remember, you agreed to this life before time was even real.